Hello! Welcome back to Drinking by My Shelf. My name is Emma, and today we will be doing the mid-year check-in tag. So, the mid-year check-in tag was originally created by Harriet over at Harriet Rosie, and she created this tag because she didn't quite like some of the questions for the mid-year book freakout tag, which most people do, but I wanted to do this tag because she tagged me and I thought it would be a lot of fun. Okay, into the questions.
So question one, how many books have you read so far this year? So far this year I have read 56 books, which I am pretty impressed with. Number two, what's your favourite book so far this year? Wow, straight into the really hard questions there. I've had a few favourite books. I think, oh god, I've got like three that I really don't know how I could choose between. Can I say all three? Am I allowed? There was Daisy Jones and the Six, which I don't have my copy right now because I lent it to my friend. That was my first new favourite book of the year. I read it all in one day. I read it on NetGalley and then instantly went out and bought the hard copy, the hardcover, the hardback. Oh god, forgot my words. Because I want to read it again and I wanted to own it because it was just a thing of beauty. So that was one of my favourites. I think that was one of everyone's favourites this year. Another one, again, super cliche, but Circe by Madeline Miller. That was another of my favourites. It's all about Circe living on an island, and it was just fantastic. So my third favourite book so far this year was The Adventures of Maud West, Lady Detective, which is a non-fiction. Very rare for me to include non-fiction in my favourite books of the year, but it was just absolutely fantastic. Question three is, what's the most disappointing book you've read so far this year? I did a video a couple months ago talking about disappointing sequels, and this was in there, Ogre Enchanted by Gail Carson Levine. Not because it was the worst book I've read this year, it wasn't. I've read some quite terrible books, but this one I couldn't have had higher hopes about a book, because Ella Enchanted is my absolute all-time favourite childhood book, so I couldn't believe there was a sequel and I was so excited, and it was just not in the same league or in the same vein. It wasn't feminist like the original, it wasn't as charming, it was just, really disappointing. This was definitely my most disappointing book of the year. Question four is, what genre have you read the most this year? I'm actually going to have to, is this going to take so long if I look through my Goodreads and try and count? And are we saying that literary fiction counts as its own genre? I don't know why I feel like you count this. I'm going to tally it. This is going to be thrilling. We're all just going to sit here and silently watch me do this. Okay, so it depends how you group it, which is hard to do. So technically, by just the tallies that I've done here, the winner is thrillers. I have read 14 thrillers. However, I also put brackets and divide them if you're doing the ones that are kind of literary fiction as well as thrillers. And if you also add in the ones that are literary historical fiction, that makes literary fiction have 18 books, so that would put that one into the lead. So it depends how you're grouping it, but basically I'll just put it how I actually put it. I put literary 9 books, I thought it would be way more than that, non-fiction 7, literary historical fiction, all the historical fiction I read was also, I would say, literary fiction. So there were 9 of those, 3 romances, 4 that I wasn't trying to classify, I put them as tearjerker / book club books, YA / children's 4, again I know that's not a genre, but whatever, and horror 5. Okay, well, that's interesting. That was not actually how I thought that would break down. Number 5, name a new author that you've discovered this year. Madeline Miller is a new author I discovered this year who I'm absolutely in love with. So I read both of her 2 books and they were both 5-star reads for me. Helena Yemi I discovered just at the end of last year. So yeah, the only new person that I've read more than 1 book by this year is Madeline Miller. Oh, or Natalie Haynes actually. I read 2 of her books as well, and I hadn't read anything by her before. She also was brilliant. I really, really loved both of her books. 6. What's the most surprisingly good book you've read so far this year? I was really surprised by how much I liked Pet Sematary. I thought I was going to hate it. I was doing a horror video for work, and I don't usually read horror, so I was quite nervous, and I really thought I'd hate it, and actually I really enjoyed it. I've been kind of like raving about Stephen King to people since then. I mean, that's the only Stephen King I've ever read. But yeah, that was surprisingly good. Oh, I guess another one would be How to Make an American Quilt. So I recently uploaded a video on my birthday that was reading bestsellers from the day I was born. And if you go and watch that, you'll see that I was very uncertain about How to Make an American Quilt, if I was going to like it or not, and I turned out to absolutely love it. Question 7 is, what are your favourite and most anticipated 2019 releases? Oh geez, I mean, most of the books, like so many of the books I've read so far this year have been new 2019 releases, so it's hard to pick. Oh, literally, top book, the last one I just read, Miracle Creek by Angie Kim. Let's talk about that. That was a fantastic book, and it's just about to come out. I think it's already out as an ebook, but it's not out in physical copy yet. But maybe it is. Don't take my word for it. It's about a family who run a kind of medical healing company. So it's for children with learning difficulties, people with infertility, like all sorts of things that people with anxiety, all sorts of things they can cure. And it's basically like being put into this sort of pressurized chamber and breathing pure oxygen, and it's supposed to heal certain things. And a lot of people think that it's dangerous and total nonsense, so there are protesters against it. And anyway, right at the beginning, what happens, there's this terrible tragedy and 2 people are killed at the centre. And then the book is following the court case and figuring out who did it, and the main suspect is the mother of one of the young boys who was killed in it. So that whole stuff was so horrible and claustrophobic to read, because it's a really horrible way to die, and it was like it made me feel really sort of sick and sweaty. But the book was so good, and it's not a thriller like there are lots of twists and turns, but it's not really about that. The book doesn't hinge on those. It's like you're constantly getting new information revealed, which means it is constantly exciting and gripping. And I was like, waiting for the end of the workday to come so I could go back to the book. But even more so, it's about the characters. It's this exploration of the dynamics between the people in the book. And it was really, really sad and powerful and wonderful. So that was a 2019 release that I really recommend. And what's one that I'm looking forward to? Oh my god, I know what I'm excited for, of course. The new Margaret Atwood. It's called The Testaments. This is a sequel to The Handmaid's Tale. That is definitely my most anticipated book of 2019. I really, really hope I love it. Number 8 is, what's the next big priority for your reading? I've got a few. So there's 2 video projects that I started literally at the beginning of the year, at the same time I started that reading the bestsellers from when I was born. And I bought all of the books for it, and it is now July, and I have not read these books. I think I've read 1 of the 8 more I've got to do. So I'm not Books on Lala. I can't follow through on these projects. She does them every month. I don't know how she does it. So that's my next big priority, is I really want to hurry up and read those books so I can finish that video. Both of those videos, and then start on a new project and set more manageable goals for myself, rather than that time I started 3 at once. So obviously I was never going to get through those books in time. So 1 at a time from now on. That's my main priority, let's say that. Question 9, what has been your bookish highlight of the year so far? Oh, all of my highlights are about books. When Harriet did this video, she talked about me and her went to Brighton for a book break video and toured around all the Brighton indie bookshops, and that was a really fun day, and she said that was one of her bookish highlights, and I think probably same for me. I just loved particularly going to this bookshop called City Books in Brighton that was I could have literally moved in. They would have to drag me out screaming. So that was definitely one of my bookish highlights, touring all those amazing bookshops. And I think maybe discovering how much I love Greek myth retellings was a big highlight, because that wasn't a genre of book that I'd ever really explored before, not since I was much younger. So reading a ton of those in a row and realising quite how much I loved them, that was a really fun stage of my reading so far this year. And finally, last question is, who do you tag? Well, I think I'm going to tag Matthew Sharapa. Though something tells me he might already have done this one.
So that was the mid-year book check-in tag. I want to thank Harriet Rosie for creating the tag and tagging me in it, and I tag all of you who want to do it. But give this video a thumbs up if you liked it, and comment down below with any of your answers to any of these questions. And obviously hit that subscribe button down below, because I post new videos every week. See you next time, and no, this video is not sponsored by Don Julio. I want to do the dialect, but I feel like I'm just gonna sound like an American asshole. But come on, Matthew, you went to acting school. You can do this. Happy Friday! And welcome back to Drinking by My Shelf. Wait, does she not post? Emma, do you only post certain videos on Fridays? I know sometimes you say Happy Friday. Is this a good idea? I don't know. I'm so sorry. It's also so bright in this room, so, you know, you have a ghost starting this video. This video is haunted.